that does put off voters, and also because I think that Biden could have a good night because expectations have been placed pretty low, including by Donald Trump over the last several months, depicting him as feeble and mentally lacking the acuity to be president. So if Biden shows up and does as he did at the State of the Union address, voters may say, yeah, he looks like he's fit for another 4 years.
Literally, Donald Trump, I think it was on social media, said that Joe Biden is the worst debater of all time. I think was how it was said at one point, and obviously that has changed. So then on the flip side, what are the reasons that you think Donald Trump may have an advantage this evening?
Listen, it's all of the things we heard from those voters in swing states. People are living a kind of economic anxiety. They're counting their paychecks by the number of bags of groceries they can get at the store. So, and they've lived this for a while. And so he has been good on pinpointing those kind of points of frustration that voters have around the economy, in inflation, rising prices.
Take a listen to how these two candidates have been talking about the economy over the last several weeks.
It's clear we have the strongest economy in the world. That's a fact.
I believe, because I'm seeing
15 million new jobs created in 3.5 years. Unemployment hasn't been this low for this long for 50 years. Wages are rising faster than prices.
Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
Inflation rates in any country in America, and we're still fighting a low.
I just thought it'd be fun if you guys want to
fighting a low healthcare cost, education cost, to give just a little more breathing room. We're just getting started. The second term. Want to keep it going to level the playing field by making the wealthy begin to pay their fair tax.
The minute crooked Joe Biden shuffles out the door, I will rapidly rebuild the greatest economy in the history of the world. Look, we had the greatest economy in history. Everybody here, where you have a small business or if you had a job, you were getting more than you ever made, and we had no inflation. I will give you low taxes, low inflation, low interest rates, rising wages, growing incomes, and fair trade for the American worker. And we will make energy affordable again by saying, drill, baby, drill.
I mean, and the challenge, too, is that voters tend to have looked at Trump's handling the economy better than they did when he was in office. He's been benefiting. One poll had him up 64% approval on that issue. He's been benefiting from time.
Hi, Goldie. How are you?
He certainly has. People have short memories.
I don't know much about American politics.
This economy issue is just a persistent one from Democrats. For Democrats,
is the prime pick,
and it is a messaging and branding problem more than anything else. Because the economic policies that Democrats champion are popular, and some of the Republican policies that
Shannon,
economic policies that Republicans champion
are
not.
Hey, you guys want to see Titus? Look at Titus.
If you ask the average American, they still want to hand their pocketbook and their budgets over to Republicans to handle, and Democrats just have to figure that out.
We know Donald Trump and his team are going to attack Biden on immigration. Here's what Trump said about it during his most recent rally.
I hate you.
We have the safest border in the history of our country. Now we have the unsafest border in
the
history
puppy
of the
time.
world. I mean, how stupid is an open border? But equally, and to be honest with you, much more importantly, open borders, because you have millions of people coming in, and they're coming from all of these places. They're causing.
I have you on my laptop cam, so.
Kate, for all of the unpredictability people attribute to Donald Trump, this is coming.
Hope you're doing the debate drink. We don't have any. Well, we have alcohol. We'd still plan on drinking.
Go right back at
it.
Say we had solutions on the table. You threw them aside. You said you'd rather have this as a political issue. I think there is a lot of purchase for Biden in that argument. I don't think he should be.
It's so funny.
I feel like he needs to be back on his heels on this. I think he can certainly and should talk about what he's done, the steps that he's taken in the last few months in particular. He can talk about the fact that on day one, in the office,
they get jealous of each other.
A comprehensive plan, sent it to Congress. He's consistently worked on this issue. But I think the big weakness for Trump on this issue is the fact that he scuttled the deal, that he essentially said, I want this as a political issue. People don't like that. The other thing I would say about this, I think, is maybe a little counterintuitive. People like the tougher measures, no question, but they don't like a lot of Trump's rhetoric around this issue when he says that immigrants poison the blood of our country and, they didn't like family separation. So there can also be some benefit, I think, for Biden in getting Trump going on this issue, because Trump has a tendency to say things that really turn off those moderate voters.
John Carlos, how
Matt,
are you?
Matt Gorman, how are you? If
How
you're
you
the Trump
doing,
team
John?
Framing this issue, they're up by double-digit points on this. If you poll,
absolutely,
they think it's one of the best issues, if not the best issue.
He's a cutie.
But do they need to be careful about
I
think in some respects, look, the Overton window has shifted on this issue just in the last 5 years. I mean, always been doing this for a long time. Always talked about when it came to immigration, there was border security, but there's also some sort of legal status citizenship conversation that has been pushed aside because this issue is so potent on the border security part. And I think one thing also speaks to the potency of the issue is the Biden team felt the need to not only rely on that attack about kind of scuttling the deal, they felt they needed to do something on the executive order. They feel they need to go further. If that wasn't the case, they felt they were winning on that issue, they wouldn't need to go on the executive order. And so I feel like, again, bring it back to immigration as much as possible.
How are
Crime, safety, immigration, those are his, no pun intended, safe ground.
Oh, I figured that. Outside
What are these very different approaches
to
preparing for this critical CNN debate tell you about the candidates?
I don't know what to expect, and I know a lot of people are watching
who they are
this.
as people, how they approach.
You know, the thing for me is
like this, but it also tells me that their campaigns
it's the
are
fact
setting
that
up
like why
here for each of them that
and
they
I've
think
kind
will
of been
succeed
going
best for
over
them.
this
I
with
mean, if
people on
Donald
my
Trump is not
social
going to
media.
succeed at
I don't
doing a mock
understand,
debate and having side by side candidates and having people
he
play
like Biden is totally
why would you
I'm
put
well,
the
how are you? I'm
candidate
great,
in that
Sherry,
position?
thank you.
Want to make sure your candidate is preparing for the debate
Joe
as they are going to
Biden has
communicate
been
on the
rehearsing
stage. And so
for
the
a
fact that
week.
they have totally different approaches,
And
I probably
he
would
has
imagine
been
doesn't surprise
coached.
many Americans. I think we
Like,
can see
he has
day
like
in and day out
obviously
as
no
they present
confidence
themselves
that
to the
he
country
could
that they kind of have different approaches
successfully
about how they go
debate
out there
somebody.
and communicate their message.
Somebody he's already
What is
debated
the
what
same for them,
twice
Wolf, are the
already, at
enormous
least 2
high
times.
stakes in this
Hi,
debate.
Pearl.
They both have
Hi,
a
and my
lot
Leo.
of opportunity here, but
And I'm
also
like,
great
this
risk on
dude,
this stage. This is a
hi,
debate
Chastity,
earlier than ever
how are you?
before. And this
This
is an
dude
opportunity
has
for
been
them
in
to
a
really
mock
focus in their
studio.
message on
Like,
those persuadable
from what I've
voters, many of
heard,
whom have
they've
been
actually
disengaged,
created a
get them
replica
engaged,
of
and
what
start
stage
making
he's
an
going to
argument
be
that
on
those
and the
voters are hearing
environment.
from them.
Like, they're
What is the
producing.
secret to winning a presidential
Like,
debate and
he's
also
getting
winning over
help from
voters,
like
more importantly?
16
That is obviously something
advisors
that is
and
all on top of
coaches
mind for
on
President
how
Biden
to
and
do
former
this
President
debate.
Trump tonight. Is it a vibe? Is it
I
a
don't
zinger?
care
Maybe
who
it's
it
a moment
is.
like this one.
I think when you make that decision,
You
it
are
might be
the
well if you would
sitting
ask
president.
yourself,
You've been president for 4 years.
are you better off
You were
than
vice
you were 4
president for
years
8
ago?
years.
We
You
need
were a
fundamental
senator
change
for
in this country,
God
and
knows
that's
how
what
many
I'd like
years.
to bring.
Hey,
If I win,
no,
I am going to
you guys, stop
instruct
chewing on
my
stuff.
attorney general
No. Anyway,
to get a special
no,
prosecutor
no.
to look into your situation.
It's just
Anyway,
awfully good that someone with the
so
temperament of Donald Trump is
I
not
don't
in
understand
charge
like
of the
like
law
that
in our
people are
country.
concerned. Like I was on my
Because you'd be in
social media
jail.
and people are saying,
Those three
"Well,
moments and
I'm
many more are the
glad you
kinds
know
my
you
next
want
guest
your
has
president to
studied and
rehearse."
voters'
It's like,
reactions to them for more
no,
than
you
3
don't want your
decades.
president
Longtime
to have to
pollster and
rehearse. You want your
communications
president
strategist
to
Frank
know
Luntz
his
joins me
job,
now.
know his
And Frank, I mean, you
accomplishments,
have
and
written
know
this
where he
really
wants to go.
interesting
There,
article
I don't
today about
understand
what
why
actually
he needs to be
wins voters
coached.
over
I don't understand.
when it's in
Coached and
debates. And
rehearsed
shockingly,
for a
to
week.
those of us on
For a
cable news,
week.
it's not always
Why?
what the pundits think is the biggest takeaway.
They're
it's
gonna
very
juice him
frustrating.
up.
In my walk here, I was
He's
saying to
gonna
some
be
of your
drinking
staff,
monsters.
be
Sure.
very careful who
Yeah.
you predict is the winner.
What
Because
they're gonna
voters
do
see
is
it very
before he goes
differently.
out, they're
They're
gonna
not
give
trying
him
to score
give him a
points. They
coffee
don't
enema
care
with meth in
if
it.
you trip
That's
up
what
on
it is.
something, and they're actually not focused
A coffee and meth
precisely on
enema.
every detail. They're looking at the personality. They're
Hey,
looking at the
Just Me, how are you?
presentation. Do I trust them? Do I like
Oh,
them?
thank you,
Can I
Leo.
see
That's
them as
sweet.
president? Is this someone I want
Thank
to
you
have
so
in my
much.
living room every night for the next 4
Yep,
years?
Carlos. John
And in
Carlos.
the end, it's the reason why Donald Trump lost that
That's what's
debate
gonna
with Joe
happen.
Biden 4 years ago, and why he beat Hillary Clinton. And that line
Oh,
there,
Just Me 77.
all
Thank
the
you, dear.
pundits said, "Oh my God, we're going to be a banana republic." He
Thank you.
says he'd throw her in jail, and every
Oh, Mark
network
is
went
in the
nuts on
kitchen
him.
right now.
Our focus group said, "Oh my God,
He's
actually
making
going to hold her
making
accountable."
pizza rolls
This is
and
exactly
frozen
what we're
burritos.
looking for in politics.
Oh.
So he was a disaster in 2020.
So I'm on my
and he
second
was
week
really
without
good in
my Ozempic,
2016.
Well, when you look at those two moments,
and my
I'm sure
my
there were
appetite's
some
coming
voters who
back.
did not like that moment. This political opponent clearly saying he'd put his opponent in jail.
Hey, do you guys? I think
because he
I'm
doesn't
thinking
like her.
about
But when you actually look at this,
keeping
you know,
my
you write
my
in this and say
prescription for
that the
Ozempic
key
and then
moments that will have the
selling it.
greatest impact on the remaining undecided
I know
voters, which is
people
obviously
will
what we're
buy
all
it.
paying attention to here, are those in which the
candidates attack each other and defining ways or undermine the political case that each wants to present to Americans. Viewers will
That
quickly
one's too
decide whether
hard.
the accusations are fair and the response is
Hey,
effective.
John,
I
are
mean,
you
if
and you and your
trying to
woman
appeal
watching?
to these independent, undecided voters Thursday night,
Are you
what does
going
that
to
look
eat it
like?
all back on?
It's
No,
only
I won't.
4%. It's only in
No,
three states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and
I've
Wisconsin.
permanently
And I'd
changed
be
my
asking a
relationship.
rhetorical question, just like Reagan did.
Thank you, Leo.
Is
It's nice.
inflation
Try to
higher
avoid so
or lower
many
today than it was 4
simple
years
carbs.
ago?
Yeah, and the way
Is the border
yeah.
safer or less safe?
No, I am.
Do you feel more or less secure? If I'm
my
Donald Trump,
my
and if I'm
relationship
Joe
with food has
Biden,
changed
do
since
you
I had a
really
heart
want to go
attack.
back to that chaos? Do you really want to go back to it? I'm going to do that for 3
you
or
know,
4 times. Either ask a
We'll wait and see
question
what next week brings.
or make a statement where you know the
But you know,
public
for
at
over
home
a
is
year, I've been on
nodding
those
their
Ozempic.
heads.
This
Yes.
completely
The
changed my
problem is
appetite and
Trump
my whole
wants to
frame
own
of
Joe
mind with food.
Biden, and he's got no self-control
But
whatsoever.
we'll see what happens
And
as
in
soon
Joe
as I can
Biden's
eat whatever
case,
I want.
he really hasn't figured out how to handle
Oh,
the ex-president,
yep.
and he's not
6 minutes?
made the case for his own re-election as
Mark,
well as
we
he
got
could.
6
The economy
minutes.
is better than people realize. The situation, the
Grabbing my
legislation
snacks and
he's
preparing
passed,
for the
they
debate.
don't know this.
Have a good
And
night,
you know what?
Chastity.
It's not your fault. It's the president's fault.
You know, when you're watching a football game and you're there and you can hear the audience, or you're watching it on TV, or you can see the refs and their calls, when you look at this and there's no audience for a moment like that, what Trump said about Hillary Clinton, there would have been no reaction to that inside that room if there had been no audience. If there's that, if the mics are being cut off, or maybe we'll still see them talking in the two shots, but not actually hear them, how much of a difference do you think that'll make?
It's huge. It's a big
I love
deal.
that.
These rules do not help Donald Trump. He was so eager to get Joe Biden into a debate that he said yes to anything. If I'd been advising him, I would have said, "Don't."
There's the
not
dog
this
eats
one.
food.
Yes, you want to debate him, but not
I know. I
these
can see
rules.
his
You need an
eyes, his
audience.
chicken.
And
Ah, there was
second,
juice
he's
in it.
so
Okay, so chicken and
he has no faith in Biden
Chicken juice,
even
rice.
being able to complete a sentence.
Yep.
So week after
Hold
week,
on,
he
guys.
made fun of him,
They can smell
and
it.
now he's trying to reverse
In the
that. Now
chicken,
he's
you know what we
trying to
do?
raise
Okay, so like what we did was
expectations.
we went and got a
It
whole
doesn't
chicken for
work.
the dogs.
If you tell people for months,
Boiled
this
it,
guy
removed
can't
the
complete a
skin,
sentence.
Yeah, with a week
took
to
all the
go,
flesh
and
off the
you're saying,
bones,
he's gonna
boiled
be
the bones, and
formidable, or
created like a very
this
gelatinous
year's,
broth.
he's going to be jacked up on drugs was
And then we
2020's,
shred up the
he's going to have an
chicken,
earpiece,
chop it
both
up.
ridiculous accusations.
I
The
got
other thing,
5
though, is
chicken
these
hearts.
two men
I thawed them out.
are
I
probably
chopped
the
them
best-known
up.
politicians in U.S. history.
I
To
follow
see
you on
them go up
Facebook
to-
also. You
on
probably
the
are
stage.
more
Everyone
familiar
knows
with
everything
what's your
about them.
Facebook name?
Is there anything really left to say to
Hi,
change
Wendy.
voters' minds, do you think?
Not much. 70% of Americans
Being prepared
do
for
not
questions
want these
like,
two
how
people.
long have you
They're
been
upset
evil,
that
Mr.
it's
Trump?
Joe Biden versus Donald Trump.
Yeah,
In the
that's going to
end,
be funny.
I believe we're going to be voting those
See, the
final
thing is,
undecided
yeah,
voters,
bone
not
broth.
on the
Yeah, and you
candidate
know what we
they
do is we
like,
mix
but
that
on
bone
the
broth
candidate
in
they
with their food.
dislike the least.
Kind of like
And that's where democracy
John Carlos,
is so
we
challenged
do
right
use chicken
now.
livers.
We're not happy with our choices,
But we were
so we're trying to
using.
vote for the least worst evil.
Oh God, you guys are
CNN's
hungry.
Jeff Zeleny
We
brings
were
us now this
using.
look at how much the United States,
We did
the
do
world, and
beef,
these two candidates have
and it was really
changed
rich. They
since
really
they
got like
first took the
diarrhea
stage.
from it. When we use a lot
A
of liver,
historic
they get
rematch
diarrhea.
between Joe Biden
We
and
kind of
Donald
cut
Trump
back on the liver.
is anything
But,
but a rerun.
I can't
A vastly
stand crap
different
news
set of
right now.
issues are driving
Oh,
this
is it on
race
Fox?
as the president and former president come face to face for their first
I
debate of the
thought it was only going to
2024
be on
campaign.
CNN.
4 years since they
That's why I
shared a
picked it.
stage.
You're the worst president America has
It's
ever
my-
had. Come
it's
on.
my real
In
name.
47
Oh, okay.
months, I've done more than you've done in 47 years.
Okay.
Jeff.
Feels like an upside down lifetime ago, back when the coronavirus
Leo,
pandemic was raging.
You're not.
Masks are okay. You have to understand, if you
You're
look,
not
I mean, I
Mason,
have a
right?
mask right here. I put a mask on
Come on, no.
when I think I need it.
This is his economy that's being, he's shut down.
Oh, okay.
In the Biden-Trump sequel,
Well, if it's on
an
Fox, I'm
entirely
gonna
new
switch
fight
over.
has been brewing on the campaign trail.
I'll switch. No.
Could end up in World War
Oh my
III with
God,
this
you
person.
guys! You guys
He's
are
the worst
buttholes.
president ever.
Let me
And
see.
in
Let
TV
me.
ads.
This election
Hold
is
on.
between a convicted criminal
Because if
who's
it's on Fox,
only
I'd rather
out
watch
for
it on Fox,
himself
to be honest.
and a
Just because
president
I
who's
like.
fighting for your family.
They have better quality of stuff. I never knew that. CNN has horrible. Like I don't even think they are. I don't even think CNN has high definition. Ah, here we go. Okay, it's gonna.
I'm a mechanic, and I've been hearing a lot of people talk about this
I'll
new
go. I'll
diagnostic
take you
tool
to
called
CNN.
Fix.
I mean,
I'm a little.
CBS, doesn't it? Right now, hold on. I don't see it. Where am I gonna? Here it is.
Here's Trump. Obviously, he just got off watching The Five. That's why he was in there for so long.
Yeah, he was like, when are they going to take a break so I could leave?
Yeah, but he said, Harold's talking. I can leave now. He's probably going to bring up that immigration bill and claim that I tried to stop it. Although I know that was a red herring and that President Biden easily could have put those executive orders back in place or remain in Mexico, but didn't. And so the bill was actually a red herring.
Was quite forthcoming about that, saying that this is going to be a key feature of some of Biden's attack lines tonight as well.
I'm on live now from
his own son's conviction, to your point, is brought up by the Trump camp as well. The economy, abortion, immigration. Also, you know what is not going to be front and center because we haven't got the decision yet from the Supreme Court. This question on presidential immunity. Can a president, while in office, be immune from criminal prosecution for alleged crimes they committed while in office? So we don't have that ruling yet. The Supreme Court still has a few more rulings left to deliver.
So people are saying listening in my work truck while my crews finish
tonight
really
because
windy.
it has not come down.
They're saying that
as well. Also, the counter programming from some of these third-party candidates, as you know, RFK Jr. holding his own event. He's not on the debate stage tonight. The parties there, Biden and Trump camp, somewhat neutralized that threat, so to speak. And then, of course, the question: who might Trump pick as his running mate is going to be alive and well. So many of these would-be contenders, Austin, on these short and long lists for the beat stakes, is what we call it. They're there in Atlanta tonight with the Trump camp. Live Now look there as well inside the spin room. Austin Westfall, I will see you after the debate. And we're getting ready to go. We are about 30 seconds out from the debate here. And you can see there
I'm
the spin room
Fox on my TV and it's not the same.
Cleared. And of course, if you know by now,
Mark,
we are simulcasting the CNN presidential debate here on Live Now from Fox. And after the debate, we'll be bringing on reporters, experts, analysts to talk about what we all just watched on this major night in American history, on this major night in the 2024 presidential election cycle. So I'm Andrew Kraft. We will see you after the debate is all said and done with highlights. Let's watch.
Damn it.
We're live from Georgia, a key battleground state in the race for the White House. In just moments, the current U.S. president will debate the former U.S. president as their party's presumptive nominees, a first in American history. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world to our studios in Atlanta. This is the CNN presidential debate.
This debate is being produced by CNN and is coming to you live on CNN, CNN International, CNN.com, CNN Max, and CNN Espanol. This is a pivotal moment between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump in their rematch for the nation's highest office. Each will make his case to the American people with just over 4 months until Election Day. Good evening, I'm Dana Bash, anchor of CNN's Inside Politics and co-anchor of State of the Union.
I'm Jake Tapper, anchor of CNN's The Lead.
I'll be watching on my TV. It's a little,
Dana and I will co-moderate this evening. Our job is to facilitate a debate between the two candidates tonight. Before we introduce them, we want to share the rules of the debate with the audience.
2 minutes, responses at 1 minute.
President Trump will be on the left side of the screen. President Biden will be appearing on the right. A coin toss determined their positions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question.
I'm the goat.
And 1 minute each for responses and rebuttals.
How did you get your TV to float like that?
Clarification or response is at the moderator's discretion.
When it's time for a candidate to
Closing
speak,
statements are 2
his
minutes. From what I understand,
microphone
Trump is
will be
going to go
turned on,
last.
and his opponent's microphone will be turned off. Should a candidate interrupt when his microphone is muted, it will be difficult to understand for viewers at home. At the end of the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes for closing statements.
Oh my God. He looks like a zombie walking. They just brought out Biden. Okay, you're here just in time. Get away from that. Come on. No. What happened to the mic on screen? Well, here, here you guys. Here.
Boys,
here.
Call your daddy.
Come on.
Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100.
There you go, boys. Come on. Come on. Hey. Come on. Come eat.
30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
You got to take a look at what I was left on became president. Mr. Trump.
Oh my God.
We had an economy that was faithful.
Did you know that by giving to our campaign earlier rather than later, you will have a much greater impact? That is because it takes time to hire organizers and staff, it takes time to open offices and connect with voters in battleground states. So the earlier we do it, the better. Please send a donation to support Joe and me.
15,000 new jobs. We brought out another position where we have 800.
At the end of the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes for closing statements.
We're still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Oh, we don't care where you came from. Shut up.
We don't get CNN.
You don't know.
That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that.
Reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination of what was left with corporate greed is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We made sure we got a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for an insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they could include next year. The situation is, and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you. President Trump?
We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID, and when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in the Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce back jobs, a bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you. President Biden?
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world. He's the only one who thinks that. I don't know anybody else who thinks he's the greatest economy in the world. And, the fact of the matter is that we pride ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea
he lost jobs because of COVID, you dumbass.
In the military, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have any, this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world.
He comes on as
President Trump,
give me a chance, guys. I could be a good president.
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months, and then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
Get him. Hammer, hammer, hammer.
Over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was growing like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine.
Yeah, nobody wanted the mandate.
That people most objected to about the vaccine, and he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation. And it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country, and I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration.
He's knocking him off. Look at Biden. Look at his face.
I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
You already said it, dude.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two,
that benefited the poor, too. It benefited me.
Benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 billionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes.
He's
they just pay 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers.
He's turning more into
they
that.
raised $500 million, billion dollars, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything that has to do with.
Look at Biden. Look at him.
Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President.
With a week's worth of rehearsal and coaching.
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on
Look at him. He just
Social
lost.
Security. They're going to destroy Social Security.
Really
this man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people, they cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. They no longer respect it. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
John Carlos is watching.
Thank you, President Trump.
Hey, John.
Jana?
This is the first
hell
presidential
y'all be?
election since
Yep,
the
you look
Supreme
lost.
Court overturned Roe v.
I think
Wade.
we should all toast
This
Biden.
morning, the court
Cheers,
ruled
Biden.
on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho,
Wonderful blunder.
despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned
no.
the issue of abortion to the states.
No.
Correct.
No.
However, the federal
You gotta
government
be- you
still
gotta be
plays a
firm with this
role
shit.
in whether
They're
or not
adorable,
women have
but they're
access
stubborn.
to abortion pills.
Is that
They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion bill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question
You're like
that
a
you're
reach
asking,
factory
it's complex, but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without
Good job,
exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals,
Look at he's zoning out.
conservatives,
Oh, he's
everybody
down.
wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, and getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was, an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought.
This is
Kansas,
the
I
leader
would
of
say
the
the
free
same
world
thing.
right
Texas
here.
is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people.
Red
Like
Rabbit
Ronald
said,
Reagan, I
he's
believe
fine
in
with
the
it.
exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the
Rape,
mother. I think it's very
incest,
important.
and for the
Some
life
people
of the
don't.
mother.
Follow your heart, but you have to get elected also, and because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even
Old
after birth. After birth. If
He's
you
just
look
an
at
old,
the
he's
former
an old
governor of
fart.
Virginia,
It
he
red
was
rabbits
willing
in
to
Canada, you
do
don't
this.
understand what
He
it is.
said, "We'll put the baby
It's like
aside,
an old
and we'll
fuddy
determine
duddy.
what we do with the baby.
An
Meaning
old
we'll kill
timer.
the baby."
Kinda
What
out of
happened
it.
is we brought it back to the
But bad
states, and the
tempered,
country is
you know.
now
Out of
coming
date.
together on this issue. It's been a great
No.
Thank
Angry
you.
because their
President
time
Biden?
has
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in. They talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of women being raped.
If women are raped by people, it's okay. Let the illegals come in and rape more women.
Brothers and sisters. It's just ridiculous,
Wow.
and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. Consider the most dangerous place anywhere in the world.
I have some wine
and he
for you.
opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue.
Joe Biden, he looks like he's
everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to
Joe
get
Biden
it.
has absolutely no
Everybody wanted
presence
it
of
brought back,
authority
and many
or
presidents have
competence.
tried to get it back.
Like,
I was the one to do it. And again, this
if
gives
you were
it
in a
the
car
vote
with Joe
of the
Biden who was
people,
driving,
and that's
you
where
would
they
never
wanted
take your
it.
eyes off
Every
the road,
legal
and you know
scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states.
They know
I'll let
that.
you do that.
God, they're
this
like,
is the
damn
same
it.
topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I support Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. First time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. The doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
He can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period.
You can do whatever you Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go.
Well, how many hundreds of years was there slavery, Joe?
Because this guy was very conservative members on the Supreme Court takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do? In fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal
They
ban
won't.
on
They said
abortion,
it's for the
across
states to
board
decide.
at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers, significantly. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed me, endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally.
Wow.
And I'm going to
He said immigration is better since he left office?
Yep.
Did you just say that?
Total initiative.
He said it's better than since he left office.
But yet,
more border patrol and more asylum.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border.
That was perfect.
All he had to do was
and look at his
all he
face.
had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now. All terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world. They're pouring in. And this guy just left it open, and he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who
I won't say that.
president, but I won't say that. But they endorsed me for president.
Brandon.
Look, we had the safest border in history.
Look at
Now we have
Joe.
the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it.
It's
And
almost like
people
he's
are
getting
dying all
information
over the
through a
place,
ship or
including the
something.
people that are coming up in
Thank you, President
caravans.
Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person come in and his administration, killed three American soldiers. Killed three American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people. That's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating. He's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed three people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the two greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous,
Leo, I believe that
insane,
too.
and
I think he has a
stupid
hidden device.
policies,
I think he has a chip
people
in
are
his brain.
coming in and they're
I
killing
do.
our
I think I
citizens
honestly do. And they're
at a
talking
level
to
that
him.
we've never
It's
seen.
in here,
We
so it's
call it
going in his ear, but
migrant
it's
crime.
in-
I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these three incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother. And he just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country.
They can't control him in those 2 minutes.
An uncivilized country.
That's what I
now.
figure. He's going to
He
say
doesn't
whatever
want
the
it to
hell
be.
he wants in those
doesn't
2
know.
minutes.
He
He just
opened the
can't
borders.
interrupt.
Nobody's
You don't
ever
even have to
seen
answer the
anything
question.
like.
He can
And
say
we have
whatever
to
the
get
hell
a
he
lot of
wants.
these people
And
out.
he
We
is.
have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're
See,
living
Biden
in
will
luxury
question, make
hotels
himself look
in New
stupid,
York City
and
and
then
other
Trump
places.
will go in and say
Our
whatever.
veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't
Yeah,
care.
and
He doesn't
Biden,
like the
right now he's
military at
thinking about
all.
his lines.
And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things
I
that
agree with
approved.
you to a
Choice that I
certain
got
point.
through
I do.
Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by
Right,
far the
Justice
highest,
Needs.
and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things
No.
that we did.
No, or
And I think
Justice
he
Needs.
did it just
Oh,
because I
Justice
approved it, which is great. But he has killed so many people at our border by
Thank you,
allowing
President Trump.
all of these people to come in. And
President
it's a
Biden.
very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since they passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange
Agent
or
Orange, those
burn
people are all
pits,
pretty.
they're all being covered
They're
now.
not on
And
Medicare.
he opposed his group
I mean,
opposed
if
it.
you were exposed to
Also
Agent
in a
Orange, you're pretty
situation
old,
where
aren't you?
we have great respect for veterans. My
You don't have
my
it.
son
You
spent a
think he
year in
got
Iraq,
them insurance?
living one next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently
Oh my
in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War II cemetery, World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers.
here we go.
Suckers.
Oh,
My
look.
son was not a loser.
Look
Was
at
not
Joe
a sucker.
trying to get
You're
angry.
the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump.
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taking better care. I'm so glad this came up and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We had 19
Why would he be
people
at a funeral for soldiers?
It was never said by me.
First general
It
and
was
tell
made
him all
up
they're
by him.
losers.
Just like Russia
It's a lie. It's a
was
lie.
made up. Just like the
It's a lie.
51 intelligence agents are made up. Just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that
I love it.
the
You brought it up.
laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers. So he should apologize to me right now.
Four-star general standing to your side was on your staff who said you said it. Period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything.
Come on.
We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And
Wait a
then
minute,
now our
Biden, you
family-
did more than
sacred
Obama did?
obligation
Was
we have as a
Obama
country.
a failure?
We care for our veterans when they come home.
Is that
for
what
their
you're
families,
saying?
And equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right, thank you so much.
Move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans
I
and
love
our
it.
soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. That when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence that he should have fired those generals like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost. But he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine. This guy told Trump, do whatever you want, and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did. Listen to what he said. Putin encouraged him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? He was part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish.
The way he did.
And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost over They've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I
if
never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute. I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine.
No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people.
This is what
And he has made one thing clear.
You can't
He
even
wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire. Not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then
The only power that Biden has is the right check.
If he takes
That's
Ukraine,
basically the only
what do you
power
think
he
happens to
has.
Poland? What do you
Give
think what do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way, all that money we give Ukraine and from weapons we make here in the United States, we give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden,
Can't wait to hear this
you've
stuff.
put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional
I think this is a
leverage
very
will you
topical
use
question right
to get
now.
Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council, straight through to the G7, to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself, have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. The second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one, they're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened? In Israel, we're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it was stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so there are 2 different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened to us. Greatly weakened. And they should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting you got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. You're going to stay in NATO? You're going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places.
Describing it. Get the fuck out of here, weirdo.
He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat.
That's a 90-minute deal.
No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations. Because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars. No, they don't want anything that we have. But we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. And I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this. I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question. Would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time? And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. A former president.
This is almost like
I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor of, in writing, by the way, the mayor in writing turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see. I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
Oh, no. I hope your surgery goes well.
He encouraged those
I don't
folks
know.
on Capitol Hill.
Sleep
Number
well,
one.
Amy.
I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours. 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they've talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. He went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court. And they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He didn't do a damn thing. And these people should be in jail, and they should be the ones being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that, they saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing, the Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on. Be convicted. The idea that Capitol Hill and all those people, every one of those who were convicted, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those people are patriots, come on. When I asked him those first two debates we had, first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing to, will you denounce those guys? You denounce the people who attacked about
get it right.
You denounce the people who attacked that Capitol. What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. He should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border. Telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, it's pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong.
Hi, Lori.
Wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with. And think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star. Number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does. He has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. Yes. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases on the road coming out. He's got a whole range of questions he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? You ever hear any presidents say that we thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The people who the ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the one he said, I think they're fine people on both sides." What American president would ever say? Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches.
He's stupid. Yes, Snopes has already disproved that. They said it was a lie.
This is the guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are.
That was
Hitler's done. That's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
He was dumb.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on that. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, right here, without question, the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every anchor every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day it came out where it was debunked.
Yes. How did they not tell him?
Nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse. Because of Charlottesville.
This is good.
Debunked. It happened.
That's a good.
All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, and he didn't deserve to be president.
This is bad.
Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking
really
about
bad for
all
Biden.
this being fabricated. We saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw people breaking through windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
Now they're going to commercial. I hope when they come back, Trump talks about that. Because it's so funny. It was just before this, just a couple days ago. All of a sudden, the fact checkers that everybody loves and respects, Snopes, they are finally admitting what everybody has been saying for years, that it was not. They were taking videos of Trump and then cutting them up. And when everybody yeah.
Protection can mean shielding those you love. It can also mean opening up a future of possibility.
On
this
the
is
left
your kingdom.
side,
Protect
those are
it fiercely.
they look at Snopes
Mutual
as
of Omaha.
something important.
Protect your kingdom.
The people on the right who are like, that's bullshit. Oh, really?
Feeling
Yes.
the love.
No,
not the
they
congestion.
the people
Live
on the
Claritin
left.
Clear.
No, they're like the trusted.
Check it out, sis.
Yeah.
My work from
So the thing
anywhere.
is, hey Jerry,
Cozy.
the thing is,
Grab yourself a
Snopes
drink.
just a few days ago admitted that was wrong.
Is this dog
that
food
he
in your
didn't
fridge?
say that
It's
very
not dog
fine
food.
people were
It's
on
fresh
both
pet.
sides and
Real
it's
meat,
referenced
real
not-
veggies.
Seems
That
like a
was
lot of
not
space to waste
they
on a dog.
did it to make it look like
Where there's a lot of space.
It's funny because now they keep talking about these cheap fakes.
You're all the
When
family I
they
need.
did-
Fresh Pet. It's
I-
not
they
dog
did-
food,
They
it's
did a
food
cheap
food.
fake on that video.
This is
That's what a
the
cheap
innovative
fake
McCormick
is.
Snap Tight bottle.
Do you think it's
A bottle
helping you
redesigned
lose
to
weight?
seal in vibrant,
I haven't
long-lasting
taken
fresh
it in 2
flavor.
weeks now, but yeah,
McCormick Snap Tight bottles.
it
Keeps
definitely
flavor fresh and dinner delicious.
it definitely did.
Safely removes pore gunk. Just like that. The #1 trusted blackhead remover. Biore.
Yeah, the fucker wouldn't even eat cat sandwiches. No appetite at all.
But yeah, Ozempic really does work. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it can.
What are you doing?
For instant intruder deterrents and faster police response. Police have arrived.
Does that work?
Now install our advanced system.
Okay, boy.
Have a pro set it
Um,
or easily do it yourself.
Did the sound go off?
What are you eating?
Yeah, it does work. I turned the sound all the way down. Okay. Yeah, Ozempic works. Definitely works.
Hey,
But that was a great ending. That's going to be cut up and used a lot. That whole thing, because it has been debunked. And everybody on the right who knew, they knew it was a lie. And but anyway, because when people watch it, when they pay attention, when they really inform themselves, they start seeing the stuff.
Wait a minute. But here's the thing. Pardon me for interrupting.
Yeah.
But it's beyond juvenile. It's puerile, and it's actually pedestrian. It's really pedestrian. It's a low-brow, low-person, lack of class type insult, because you're talking about a person that has been saying the right thing on TV his whole fucking life. And all of a sudden he's going to say the wrong thing at the wrong time. Okay.
You should hear the commercials on Fox. Hi, Lisa. How are you? I think we're watching it on Fox.
Got it.
Presidential debate live from Georgia.
Okay, stop it,
Let's
guys.
talk about persistent challenges you both faced in your first terms, and you'd certainly face again in a second term. President Biden, while Black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, Black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and Black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one.
Yeah.
There's more small Black businesses that have been started at any time in history. Number 2, the wages of Black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number 3, we're trying to provide housing for Black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. In addition to that, we find that the impact of the choice that Black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce Black child care costs. I cut them in half.
Yes, he did. Yeah, you're right. He's proud of himself.
Child care costs. Got to make sure, because when you provide those child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any Black family.
I thought inflation was better.
$10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home.
Oh, it only hurts Black people. Okay.
Inflation
because it really makes them feel worse.
Student loans.
They have more feelings or more sensitive feelings. I don't know. For some reason, it hurts.
If they paid
I guess white people are very strong. Very strong people.
Forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for Black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation.
Like what,
he's
Joe?
blaming inflation, and he's right. It's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing Black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food, where it's doubled, tripled, and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it.
He's just
a scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the Black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking Black jobs now, and it could be 18,
I'm so glad
19, and even 20 million people. They're taking Black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
The worst in our history.
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. It provided thousands and millions of jobs for individuals who were in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered with the ACA.
Why are they pretending that COVID didn't happen?
$8,000.
Do you know it's like, okay, listen. Okay, he's taking credit for giving jobs to people, but it's because COVID ended. And then he's blaming Trump for people losing jobs. Because, like, you know what I'm saying?
We put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on.
So funny.
Inflation.
How do people not see that?
His tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the
that insurance. You know, my car insurance
2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police. How close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the Black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically Black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He he did a great job. Great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country. Opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country.
Yeah, he's confused.
And it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air. And we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that he said is true. I passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $50 million for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college and doing any white student can do. He doesn't have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is
Did you hear that?
to have done something to have the cleanest water. Cleanest water. He hadn't done a damn thing for the environment.
Did you hear that, Black America? You guys
I immediately
are just as good as white people. You're just as good as them.
There's no way back.
Joe just can't help himself, can
he? Didn't do a damn thing about it. Do all that we have done.
Just as good. Oh, thank you.
Paris Accord
You know
was going to
what?
cost us
Joe
$1 trillion,
completely
and China
lost
nothing, and Russia
this
nothing, and
debate.
India nothing. It was a rip-off of the United States.
I won't be surprised
And
if the
I ended it
Democrats
because
are
I didn't
struggling
want to waste
right
that
now
money
and
because
making
they treat
phone
us horribly.
calls
We were the only
to
ones
try to
costing
get
us
someone
money. Nobody
else
else was
to
paying
replace
into it, and it was a disaster.
Lordy.
But everything that he said just now,
Oh.
I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What
Black
he's
kids
doing
can
is
be just
destroying
as
all of
smart
our
as
medical
hormone
programs
kids.
because
Right.
the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence. We're not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything if we're not able to? The United States can't get this under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half.
China and India are the biggest
We
polluters.
will continue to make progress. We set up a climate corps where thousands of young people learn how to deal
By a
with
lot.
Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements
I didn't
of
see
cause
Blair
and
White,
disease.
no.
But the idea.
Oh, she's there?
No, she was at Texas Pride. When she was interviewing people,
about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay. And by the way, cannot have to pay.
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
Yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6%.
They always say that. Always.
Every single time they get a paycheck from the time
they always say that.
6%.
But the thing is, Social Security has always been in trouble.
Everybody they pay
always.
Millionaires pay 1%.
Every cycle, it's all. It's just like abortion, right? It's just like guns. Those are the three things. Yeah, you're right. Every 4 years, it's those four things.
Share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there
John,
any
he's
other measures
writing.
you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well,
yeah, the old man. Yeah, I saw that.
The biggest thing we'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare both times. And that's what, and if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that he, I believe, supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, we're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. One thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is,
it's like you don't want to listen to him. Oh, he's so annoying.
Why is the amount of money for Pell Grants another $8,000?
It's like he has no feelings or no anything.
$15,000 toward the tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Thank you, President Biden, President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen him. He can look you in the face. About so many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. By the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it. Two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world. The reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way,
so Joe's like justifying letting in all these people.
Those 15 Nobel laureates.
He's just justified why he let so many illegals come into the country.
And inflation is going to increase as well. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars.
That's exactly what I think, Lisa.
The worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it. But they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put him there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He's the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We're the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up or go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history. One from best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care. He did for virtually nothing with child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men, single parents, to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take a minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you, and they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever been in an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about. He's increased the tariff. He will increase the taxes on middle class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $40,000.
Because that's what did.
10% tariff. Everyone coming in the country, you know what
Tony said he'll do
$1,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that are important. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised. He's somehow helped the middle class. The middle class has been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You have the largest deficit of any president in American history. Number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President. Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it has gone up. Now, former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year. primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. You notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog. It's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot. And we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low, because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl. These big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs.
He would put fentanyl machines on the border to detect the drugs, but he doesn't want to build a wall and have.
We had that deal done. He called his
and
colleagues said, "Don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically." No,
don't stop the people. Stop the drugs.
It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us.
That's funny, Valley.
We don't have the technology to be able to put it together.
The Border Patrol tweeted out recently.
President Biden.
President Trump, we have never and will never endorse
Americans in the throes of addiction right now, struggling to get the treatment they need.
Because this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done. Negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter. I think a good guy. And he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly, as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago, but Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where we paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term.
They can't stand
Trump.
Trump.
How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Cat's laying here and the dog's on the
First of all, I spent half my career being criticized as being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less confident. I think you just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look, I've turned around.
A lot less. Oh God.
As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. The whole idea of computer chips. We used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because we were sending people to jobs overseas and to bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States, and guess what? Those fabs they call them. To build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I've heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president.
Well, that's exactly how you talk.
Yeah. All our problems and all our opportunities.
Exactly how you talk.
We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world that keeps our word. And everybody
racist and at least Helen and half of us are all racist.
From Kim Jong-un, we sent love letters to them, Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around.
Thank you. For President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We've been in public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 225 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him.
You know what Judge said? He's having a dick measuring contest. That's what he said.
But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. You can do it.
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8. I was at 8. But I had, you know how many?
Why are they allowing the mics on?
Let's not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to
let's not act like children.
to a specific concern that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable.
Garbage.
And if you see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many many places, enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. The only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because his policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III. And he's going to drive us into
World War III. Let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want in NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is attack on all.
His eyes.
Required response.
Oh my God.
Idea. I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done.
Oh my God,
because
that was
we're
funny.
a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything. They step up and lead. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because of our own safety as a state. And again,
we're
I
not.
have a war. Just
We're
let
not
people go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. Not to play games. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine.
You can tell by the way they both look
at
US
relation before.
you
Would
can
you
tell
do this with? He's got us
there's
in
like
such a bad
deeper
position
shit
right now
about this.
with
It's
Ukraine
deeper
and Russia.
than like just what we
Because
see.
Ukraine's not
We know
winning
as
that war.
politics.
He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were
President Trump,
president.
the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local.
Hey, enough!
You continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There's no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate, live from Georgia.
She's so pleased with ending right there. Did you see her smiling? It's the only time we saw her smile. Dawn is being so tame tonight. Good job, Dawn. Right back before I pee myself from laughing. By the way, great to see you, Billy and Marc. Good to see you, Ross. How are you?
When you shop with the Shipped app, you open the door to delight. Because with Shipped, posting always goes swimmingly. Whatever you need, however you need it, we're at your door.
Let me
Shipped,
turn this volume
delight in
down.
every delivery.
Somebody complained after the first break.
What was their complaint?
Can we mute the sound?
Of what?
The feed I'm showing right here.
Okay.
Because I'm showing it up here too. We need Billy and Marc to moderate a debate.
Oh my God, they would hate us.
That'd be fun.
Well, Trump would like us.
Oh, Mark Hudson has joined us.
Mark!
How are you doing?
How the hell y'all are?
Any scooter rides soon down here along the beach? You know what? It's funny. Okay, I don't think have we left the city limits yet?
Oh, no.
We haven't left the city limits yet.
The longest trip is like 10 miles.
Yeah, we've gone 10 miles away. Well, the thing is, I don't know if we want to go. Mark said hi.
Hey, bud.
We don't know how far we'll honestly really drive on these things because they are supposed to be licensed. They're supposed to be licensed. Hey, Marc, you got to get yourself a scooter. They're fun.
They are a lot of fun.
Wait, you have a motorcycle, don't you? You did.
Oh,
but
there's a motorcycle?
I think he did. Tucker! Titus! Hey!
Owe a lot of money to the IRS.
Stop it!
Almost $15,000.
I'm gonna put them outside.
Trying to make payments.
Where are you? We're in our room in San Bernardino.
They're coming to put a lien and a hold on.
I know, yeah, that's funny. It's people there. There's been a couple of people think that we're like in a hotel somewhere.
Oh gosh.
When the tax got involved, the cars would stop.
Now with our baggage prints on the walls.
We could be in
boys.
We could be in Wheat. Oh, he has a Harley.
Oh, how fun!
John Carlos wants Susan to ride his scooter.
She needs to.
No.
She needs to. Have her join the scooting club. Get her helmet and everything.
Yes, Marc, we got to. Ross says the bike path between Newport and Sunset would be rad on the beach. Oh, I never thought about going to Newport with the bike. Well, we have bikes also. We like to ride on the bike.
Ooh, yeah, we can take the bikes.
We cycled from Venice and Santa Monica.
Yeah,
we did that whole area.
We went around the bay in San Diego.
Oh, yeah, that's right, Mission Bay. We went around Mission Bay in San Diego. That was good. We liked that.
That was 15 miles.
Yeah, it was 15 miles around Mission Bay.
And it was lovely.
We had a good time. I got really burnt though, I think. I mean, okay, here we go. It's starting again.
It is now time for the candidates to deliver their closing statements as predetermined by.
Hey, I'm getting sick of you guys.
Begin with you, President Biden.
You're too cute to yell at.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience, or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is,
yeah, that's true.
That's what, is this the second time he's moved his hand? Or the third? I think it's the second time. He made a gesture with one hand.
But
look, another hand gesture.
Increased your taxes because of the deficit.
You're going to be tired.
He's very
He's
scripted.
increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more.
Trump's
10% tariff on every
Trump's
in the United States of America.
Yes, because the board.
For example, he wants to get away with
we all know that.
the ability of Medicare to for the ability
That's like
to be able to
because
negotiate.
you never satisfied the bid. I had to go find some Dick Thug his and now I'm pregnant and it's your baby.
Now more than $2,000 for every senior no matter what
That's what that
how
is.
much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the
I'm
federal
thinking you
debt
for-
by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along. It's happening now, and everybody in America who wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the people have for child care.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on
it's a
lead
mess.
pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people.
Oh, no one gives a shit about lead
President
pipes.
Biden, President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your question.
Oh God!
Like so many
cares
politicians,
right
this
now?
man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this.
That was
we
how
want
he
to do
ended
that.
it.
We want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all the stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations and gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's ever seen anything like. Even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
Of this debate, Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts.
That was that. Well, I clearly Trump on that. I mean, there are many, many things that Biden said that are going to be used against him because he said some pretty bad stuff about black people. That he went to the whole thing about, oh, they're just this, you know, they could.
President.
Yeah, they could do just as good as white people. It, you know, talking to it just, I don't know. There's going to be a lot of sound bites from that. Yeah. All right, you guys. Thanks for joining me. We had a good time. Bye.
The two prospective nominees